Hi, welcome to the first episode of Knitting Needles and Stems. I'm Carrie, and I decided that I'm going to start doing a video podcast. I'll broadcast every month or maybe every couple of weeks to show you just what I've been up to in my knitting and fiber arts, and I'll show you what's up in my gardening world for that time period. And for now, let's just jump right in. The first thing that I've been working on, we're going to start with works in progress, or WIPs if you will, is Headland by Elizabeth Doherty. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Elizabeth Doherty if you're very into the knitting world. She's a very prolific designer. She has made a lot of great patterns out there. And I'm making my Headland. Headland is a sweater. It's an oversized sweater that's almost boxy-like, but not quite, because it does have waist shaping and hip shaping included in the pattern. I'm making mine using Bumblebee Acres Farm Squishy Sock Advent 2023 colors. This Advent came with a full 100 gram skein of a tan color, this color, along with 25 mini skeins that are hand-dyed, which the main one, the full skein is hand-dyed also. But the 25 mini skeins were all different colors. And I'm making mine in the order in which I opened them. So you can see, like, this is day one with the pink and the purples, and then the lighter white with pink, day 3, and then they go in order all the way down to day 25. Okay, and this sweater has very interesting construction. This is the shoulder seam here, and then you work short rows over the shoulders to create the shoulder shaping. It also has a slip stitch on the seam, if you will, on the side. It's worked in the round with a faux seam with these slip stitches, which gives it just a little bit more stability than it would have if you were just to go round and round and round and stockinette stitch. I have the whole body done on this one. As you can see, it's off the needles already. I've been using the weave-in Steven technique to weave in my ends as I go, and leaving an end in there still. So I'm going to braid these together after I wash and block it, just to make sure that those yarns aren't going to go anywhere after, you know, wearing it and washing it and all that stuff. So that's my Headland by Elizabeth Doherty using Bumblebee Acres Farm Squishy Sock Advent 2023. The next thing that I've been working on is my Flax sock by TinCanKnits. And I know the name makes it sound like a sock, but it is not a sock. It is actually a sweater. Flax is a sweater in the easy to knit line that TinCanKnits offers. I'm making mine using Knitologie Sheen, which is a yarn that is no longer available because it was only available through Knit Crate, which Knit Crate unfortunately went out of business. So you're not going to be able to get this unless you find somebody selling it from their stash. The colorway that I'm using is Titmouse, and it's the grays and the yellows and the blues and the browns, and I just love how they're all working together in this sweater to make the patterning that they're making. Flax is a super simple knit. The pattern is so intuitive and it has such good instructions. It's mostly stockinette, as you can see, but it does have a garter ridge that goes all the way from the neckline all the way down the sleeve to the cuff, and then you work a 1x1 rib for the cuff in a smaller unit. As you can see, I have almost one sleeve done. The body's completely done. I'm waiting to do the hem on the bottom of the body until I'm finished with the sleeve, so I can decide how long I want to make it. I think it's almost to the length I want, but I might want to make it a little bit longer to use up a little bit more of this wonderful yarn. The yarn actually has cashmere in it, so it's pretty nice. Okay, so that's Flax sock by TinCanKnits using Knitologie Sheen in the Titmouse colorway. I'm in a couple of groups on Ravelry that do knit-alongs, and I'm a sucker for a knit-along. In one of the groups, the Knitting in the Loft group, We have what they call a Saturday social, and every Saturday a pattern is chosen, and it's usually a smaller pattern. There's a lot of snowflakes and some washcloths, and every once in a while little angels, and I sometimes do some of these patterns. So one of the patterns was Cat's All Folks, which is a cloth by Susan Yu. And for this, I'm using Knit Picks Comfy and just random leftovers that I had, because I have a lot of cotton that I've bought over the years to make toys or make baby sweaters, and then I have it left over and don't know what to do with it. So this is a double knit cloth. Okay, so I used the purple and the blue, and then I did run out of this blue and ended up having to substitute the yellow. And that's why the cats up here will be purple and yellow. And I'm hoping I don't run out of this purple before it's done. But you can see that double knitting, it mirrors on both sides. So it's just a mirror image of the other. Double knitting is really fun, but I find it a little confusing at first reading the charts, because you're doing 2 stitches for each color on the chart, and one will be the color of the chart and one will be the opposite color. But once you get the hang of it, it turns out pretty well, because you can then read your knitting and know where you are in the chart and know what stitch it is you're supposed to do next. Again, that's Cat's All Folks by Susan Yu, using Knit Picks Comfy in random colors that I had in my stash. I've also been working on the Japanese sampler blanket by Toni Lorenz, using Knit Picks Heatherly Sport and 4 colors: Atmosphere, Bedtime, Gravity, and Otter. This is a mystery blanket pattern that she usually has a mystery knit along with the Japanese stitches. She really loves the Japanese stitches. Every year. This is the first year I've done a blanket. I don't know if she's done blankets before. She's also in the Knitting in the Loft group. But I have all the squares done through October. So I did them in order. In the order that they were released. And I'm making it quilt-like. That's why I'm using the 4 colors. Okay. So you can see the colors. They look really nice together. And one more row. It's 4. What you do is you knit a strip. Okay. So one strip is 4 squares. So you have January, February, March, April. And then she says to bind off at the end of April and do another strip with May, June, July, and August. Well, I didn't do that. I'm joining them as I go, because I know me and I do not like to sew things together. So I'm using slip knit at the end of the block here and attaching them together as I go. And it's making this nice little seam going all the way up where the blocks come together. And then I will go in and I will weave in all the ends and have this finished. It's actually going to be a Christmas present. And she has released the final clues for November and December, even though it's not December yet. So I should be able to have it done in plenty of time to get it to where it needs to go for Christmas. It's the only Christmas present that I'm making this year. And I think I have one more work in progress. And that is the Mira River Wrap by Tammy Canavan-Soldaat. This is also a knit along in the Project a Month cow group that I help moderate. I have this yarn, I'm not even sure where I got the cone, but I have a giant cone of this yarn, and it is this nice brown color, And if you really look, you can see little spots of red in there and sometimes a little green. And it's just, it's a really nice color of yarn, but it is super thin. This is lighter than a lace weight. I think it's a cobweb weight. So I'm making slow progress on this. I'm using little bitty beads, which you can see there. They look really nice with this brown yarn. I don't know how long I'll make this. It's a long-term project for sure because it takes a long time to get anywhere with cobweb weight yarn. So I'm just enjoying it. I figure I'll go until I run out of beads maybe, because I only have so many beads, but I have a lot of this yarn left. From the feel of it, it feels like it's wool, but I'm not 100% sure what the fiber content is. Like I said, I don't know where this yarn came from. So that's the Mira River Wrap by Tammy Canavan-Soldaat. And if I'm not saying your name right, Tammy, I am so sorry. Okay, so that was all the whips. So now we will move on to FOs. Finished projects, finished objects. Every month I make a mother bear to send for the Mother Bear Project. These bears go to kids in Africa that are affected by HIV and AIDS and other things. You can learn more at the website that I'm going to put right here in this corner. Amy is an amazing person. I've actually met her. She's the one who runs the show for Mother Bear. She is the one. So if you are doing anything that involves Mother Bear, she is the one you are working with. She came up with this all on her own because she knew of all the people that were in need there. So anyway, every month they have a theme in the Ravelry group for the bears. The bear is a basic pattern. You send Amy $5, she mails you a pattern in the mail. It's not available digitally. You send her the $5 and she'll mail you the bear, or the project for the bear. They have knitting and crocheting, and they have them where you can sew them together or work them in the round, however you want to do it. They do ask that you send at least $3 per bear when you send the bears back to her to go to the project to help pay for shipping and different costs that are associated with the program. Anyway, for this month, for October, it was bears in costume. And my favorite animal is a frog. So I made a frog bear. Okay, this is Frosch. Frosch in German means frog. And he has this little frog hood. He is actually a bear wearing a hood in his little froggy costume. The themes are so fun. There are so many creative people in that group that you should definitely go check it out. And if you're interested in making mother bears, they are so fun to make, and you can make them however you want, using whatever yarn you want. Completely up to you. You don't have to follow the prompts. You can just make bears and send them in, and they'll go to kids who need them. So that is Frosch, the mother bear for the Mother Bear Project. Next, Sarah Schira's most recently wrapped up mystery gnome was someone to write gnome about. For this one, I used 100 Acres Ravens Iachos. I'm not sure how you pronounce that one either. In the color Aphrodite. And Sock Obsession Yarns Resilient Smooth Sock in the colorway Bad Influence. And then I had some white that I've used on other gnomes. I think it was probably Leading Men Fiber Arts, Bare Necessities, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But this is Knock. Knock has socks, or Knocks and Socks, if you will, if you're a Dr. Seuss fan like I am. He has this long, luxurious hat. Look at this. And you can lay it this way or around the back, or I like it in the front so we can see his long and a glorious hat. And his socks are so cute with his little floppy legs. You sit him on a little shelf and his legs will fall over. I think she's outdone herself with this one. It's really cute. And I make all of her mystery patterns. Ever since I found her, I have made every mystery pattern. I have not gone back and made the mystery patterns that she had before I found her. But one of these days, maybe. I did get no fun, like gnome fun, and I've made the little gnomes that she has. But she is an amazing designer, and that's it. I mean, she's just amazing. So this is Knock, Someone to Write Gnome About by Sarah Schira, using 100 acres. 100 ravens, Iachos, and Aphrodite, that's the blue, and Sock Obsession Yarns Resilient Smooth Sock in Bad Influence, and that's the yellow and gray. Okay, and thirdly, I have the Hellekindset by Lanja Kohn-Engheim. I'm assuming that's a German name, and I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. But for this one, I used alpaca that I have left over from my local alpaca store. It's actually only 10 miles from my house. It's between my house and the town that I live in. So I'm really good friends with the owner, and she would give me alpaca to make items for the store with. And when I was done with the item, if there was any left over, I was able to keep it. So this hat was made using some of those leftovers. I really love how the black and white looked, and then with the tan in there as well. This hat was so fun to make and so fast. It was like it just flew off my needles. It only took me 2 nights to finish this, but I've been told that I knit fast. I don't really think I do, but others have told me that I do. So who knows? I knit at the speed that I knit, and knitting is not a race. We're all here to just make things that are beautiful that we like, right? So this is the Hellekindset by Lanja Kohn-Engheim, using alpaca from Joyful Journey alpacas. And yeah, so that's that one. I've also started reading The Knitting Bag of Tricks by Patty Lyons. Patty Lyons is amazing. I mean, I listened to an interview with her on the Unraveling podcast, and I know this sounds weird, but she's a real person. Like, she's like me and you. You know, you think of all these knitters and you think, oh, well, they just automatically know how to do that, or they had all the good training, or they, you know, this or that. And it's just not the case, because she's a self-taught knitter. Self-taught knitter before YouTube and Google, and you could look everything up if you didn't know the answer. So she is legit the real thing. So she came out with The Knitting Bag of Tricks, and now this came out a few years ago. It just talks, I mean, it's not a how to knit book. It's a reading your knitting and understanding why your knitting is the way it is, and why you're getting the result that you're getting, and all that stuff. I actually made the swatch. Oh, this is the workbook. This one just was released, I want to say in September, that goes along with the Knitting Bag of Tricks. And for this one, she encourages you to write in your books, which, you know, we're always taught. Don't write in your book. Don't write in your book. Ever since we were in elementary school. Don't write in your books. Don't write in your books. Well, on the very first page, you can see here, it says, this book belongs to, I've been knitting for, my biggest knitting challenge is, and my knitting goals are. And it comes with stickers and exercises and needle inventory and all the fun stuff that you could ever want from your book. So for the first lesson, I'm going to make a swatch. And it has garter, knit garter, purl garter, stockinette stitch, ribbing, and seed stitch. And then you go through and you talk about all the different attributes of all the different stitches and how they work different, and how they look different, and how they make different material and different gauge and all that stuff. So this is a really nice workbook. I've considered taking the master knitting course more than once, but I just don't think that I have the bandwidth to do that. I do have a husband, 3 kids, and a full-time job, and I'm a pattern designer. So I just don't really think I have the time or the brain space to take that in. But this I can do. This I can do it at my pace. I can do, you know, a little bit at a time, do 1 page and then put it away for the day or the night. And it'll help me in the long run know why the knitting does what it does. So I would highly recommend these books, especially if you're struggling with the how. There's no right or wrong way to knit. If you knit and you're getting a fabric that you like, then you're doing it right. So that's the Knitting Bag of Tricks by Patty Lyons and the Knitting Bag of Tricks workbook by Patty Lyons. Next, I'm going to talk about more out than in. I have a goal every year. Every year I want to lessen my stash. My stash isn't that big compared to some other knitters. Some other knitters have what they would call a yarn store available to them. I don't have that much. I have a lot. I can probably live comfortably for at least 10 years and not ever have to buy yarn and still knit every day. So, but sometimes I feel overwhelmed by the number of skeins of yarn, by the amount of yarn that I have. So I always make a goal to send more out of my stash than I bring in. Well, I made 2 yarn purchases in October. First, I bought the Leading Men Fiber Arts Showstopper in the Beetlejuice colorway. I am a sucker for Beetlejuice. I went and saw the second movie. It's amazing. Michael Keaton is amazing. Everything. I just love Beetlejuice. Ever since the 90s when the first movie came out, I watched it all the time when I was growing up with my cousins at my grandparents' house. And I couldn't resist. I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no. Green is my favorite color. Beetlejuice is one of my favorites, and I could not say no. So this is their showstopper. Beetlejuice colorway and fingering weight. 463 yards. So this brought in 463 yards into my stash. And it's from Leading Men Fiber Arts. They're one of my favorite yarn companies. I love those guys. I see them at the shows that I go to because they're in the Midwest just like I am. And they're just amazing. The second thing that I ordered, this is actually for a pattern. I have a pattern picked out for it. And it's going to go along with some hand spun that I have. That I'll show you when I start working on it. I'll show you that when I start working on it. I got 840 yards of the Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For Studio DK in the charcoal color. This is for the Worsted Sock Arms pattern by Stephanie Lotvin. I was spinning the yarn for it. And the yarn that I spun is in greens and grays and purples, and I kept calling it Witchy Woman because it reminded me of Halloween, and Witchy Woman sounded like a good name. And this charcoal will go perfectly with it. It's from the Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For. And it's their Studio DK, 100% superwash merino. 280 yards per skein for a total of 840 yards brought into my stash. So in October, I brought in 1,303 yards. To send stuff out of my stash, I either gift the yarn or finish the project, or that's it. I mean, I either gift it or I finish a project. And I only finished one thing that is included in that count. The Knit Picks Comfy, that cotton, I don't have that tracked in my Ravelry stash, and that's how I keep track of what I'm sending in, or bringing in and sending out is in my Ravelry stash. So The only thing that I finished that counted toward that goal was my knock, someone to write Gnome about, and that was 358 yards. So I brought more in than I sent out this month, but I have a blanket that's almost done, and I have 2 sweaters that are almost done, so I'm thinking I'm going to look pretty good for November. I'm also a pattern designer. I don't have anything in the works or anything releasing right now to talk about, but I'm just going to put that out there. I'm carried from fleece on Ravelry. I have a Ravelry group, and I sell all my patterns on Ravelry. Now, to gardening. With the new beginnings of the new video podcast, I figured why not talk about new beginnings in my plants as well. I always, in the spring, I always go to the greenhouse and I'll spend a bunch of money on a bunch of plants and I'll put them in the ground, and I may or may not, and I'm talking vegetables. I like plants that serve me more than just for me to look at them. Flowers are great. Flowers are wonderful. They're beautiful to look at, and I've had a plethora of them when we moved into our new house. So there's a place for flowers, but I'm a sucker for some vegetables. But with my purchases and the soil that we have here in northern Wisconsin, it just don't ever quite work out, and we don't really get a lot of produce for the money that I spend at the greenhouse. So I decided, why not save seeds from the foods that we eat instead of buying these plants every year. So, of course, it's right past Halloween. We had pumpkins. We carved the pumpkins. See the photo here. And I saved some seeds. I got these little bags. I dried them out for a day or two on a paper towel in my window. Got these little bags with labels. Pumpkins. Excuse me. We also ate acorn squash for dinner a couple weeks ago. So I saved some acorn squash seeds. So these are ready for the spring, or, late winter, whenever I decide to try to start my plants inside. I do have a grow light, so I can, grow stuff inside with minimal success. But I also wanted to talk about propagation of my succulents. So I had some succulents given to me, and my daughter has had some given to her. She's 13. And these are the cuttings from them. They're pretty established. These are established plants that we received for free because somebody wanted to give them to us, which is very nice. I love my succulents. They're easy to take care of. They do require more light than I have in my house, so I have a grow light just for my succulents. But for the end of school, I decided that it was time to propagate the I'm planning ahead because it is only November. It was time to propagate these little guys, and they're so easy to do. You just take their little leaves, sit them on some dirt, and then they start growing these little plants. Look at this. So these, I'm almost ready to plant them on their own into, see, look at this. Look how amazing that is. Into little pots. I bought little white pots. I have 12 of them. My daughter is in middle school, so we will have plenty for her teachers. And we will just plant them in the quick draining soil, because that's what succulents have to have. And she can give them to her teachers as end of year gifts. And I think they'll just be perfect. And they're, like I said, they're easy to take care of. They can have them in their classroom. If they want to have them in their classroom, they can take them home, do whatever, because they're succulents. They don't need to be watered all the time. They use very little care. They need very little care. Also, another succulent that I got from my local church was, this is a false Christmas cactus. And when I got it, it was this one and this one were in here, and they have really long legs. It was really leggy and hanging over the edge. Well, I want a more full plant. I want it to be whole, you know, clustered and together, so that it will maybe bloom. Maybe I can get it to bloom. So I just twist off the little leaf and stick it right in the soil. Super easy. That's what these are. This one has since grown 2 little new leaves, which is really exciting. And this one has a little new leaf. I don't know if you can see it there, but that is very encouraging. It also goes into the quick draining soil, because it is a succulent as well, and they're prone to root rot if you put them in any other kind of soil and you water them. The rots could root and it would kill the entire plant. So those are my projects for this episode, and my plants and my plans for plants. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment on this video, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. And like and subscribe if you feel like it, so that you can see more episodes. And I'll talk to you next time.